If you've been scrolling through endless lists of gaming laptops, weighing the hype of RTX 5090 against the price tag, and still aren't sure which machine actually earns its bragging rights, this review is going to give you a clear answer. I've spent the last few weeks testing a handful of high-end 18-inch rigs, comparing their heat, battery life, and how they feel when you actually sit down to a marathon gaming session. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the MSI Raider 18HX isn't just another big-screen laptop. It's a full-blown desktop replacement that leans heavily on AI-driven performance tuning. The idea is simple: the system watches what you're doing, predicts the workload, and allocates power accordingly. In practice, that means you'll see a burst of extra GPU clock when you launch a title like Cyberpunk 2077 and a subtle power draw reduction during lighter moments, like browsing Discord. That kind of dynamic scaling feels nice, but it also adds a layer of complexity. You'll need to keep an eye on the MSI Center software if you want to override the AI's decisions. Who should consider this machine? If you're a content creator who also games, someone who streams 4K gameplay while editing video on the side, or a competitive player who refuses to compromise on frame rates at 1440p and higher, the Raider 18 fits right in. The 64GB of DDR5 RAM and 2TB NVMe SSD give you headroom not just for massive game libraries but also for large media projects. The Thunderbolt 5 port is fast enough to drive an external 8K monitor, or to connect a PCIe GPU dock if you ever need even more horsepower. On the flip side, if you mostly game at 1080p, stick to indie titles, or value portability above every other factor, this laptop will feel overkill. Its 18-inch chassis pushes the 2.8 kg weight boundary, making it a beast to carry on daily commutes. Let's talk real-world strengths. The standout feature is the 4K UHD Plus display with a 120Hz refresh rate. Most gaming laptops sit at 1080p/144Hz, but the Raider's panel gives you a crisp, cinema-grade image while still handling fast motion without tearing. I tested Red Dead Redemption 2 at native 4K, and the image stayed buttery smooth, thanks to the RTX 5090's ability to push high frame rates even at that resolution. The AI-enhanced upscaling, MSI's version of DLSS, kept performance solid without sacrificing visual fidelity. For developers or designers, the color accuracy was good enough to handle photo work without needing a separate calibrated monitor. Another practical win is the Wi-Fi 7 module. In my apartment, where the router sits across a thick wall, the connection remains stable on a 2.5 gigabits per second link, and I never saw the occasional drop that sometimes plagues older Wi-Fi 6 cards. That consistency matters when you're in the middle of a ranked match or trying to upload a 30-minute stream. The wireless reimagined branding isn't just marketing fluff, it translates into fewer hiccups when you're multitasking. The keyboard layout deserves a mention too. MSI kept the classic tactile keys but added a perky RGB zone that actually syncs with the laptop's performance mode. When you hit a performance boost, the edges pulse red, giving you a visual cue that the system is pushing harder. It's a little novelty, but it works as a quick health check without pulling up the software. Now, the hidden trade-offs. The biggest one is heat. The RTX 5090 puts out a lot of power, and while the Raider's vapor chamber cooling is impressive, it still runs hot under sustained load. During a 3-hour Elden Ring session, the CPU stayed around 85 C and the GPU hovered near 90 C. The fans kicked up to a noticeable whir, which can be distracting if you're recording commentary. MSI's AI does try to throttle when temperatures climb, but you'll hear the system dip seconds before the frame rate drops, so it's not a silent compromise. If you plan to game in a quiet room or use a microphone right next to the laptop, you may need an external cooling pad. Battery life is another realistic limitation. With the 99Wh battery, you can expect roughly 23 hours of gaming at medium settings before the charger screams for attention. That's fine for a desktop replacement you'll mostly keep plugged in, but it means the machine isn't suitable for on-the-go gaming sessions. For productivity work like coding or watching videos, you'll stretch to about 67 hours, which aligns with what most high-performance laptops deliver. Storage capacity feels generous on paper. 2 TB is more than enough for a sizable game library. However, the SSD is split into two 1TB drives that operate in RAID 0 for speed. If one drive fails, you lose everything, and the RAID setup isn't something MSI software lets you easily back up. For anyone who values data redundancy, you'll need an external solution or a separate backup routine. The price point is where the value discussion gets interesting. The Raider HX sits comfortably above $4,500, placing it in the same tier as a custom-built desktop with a high-end GPU. If you already own a gaming desktop, you might question whether this